So you're thinking of investing in a CNC router. Let me give you a review on the Onefinity CNC woodworker. This Onefinity CNC router has drastically changed my business over the past year. It has allowed me to save time. It's helped me become more creative. It's helped me personalize products for my customers. It has absolutely helped me increase my bottom line as a business. Okay, let's kick this thing off by talking about price. Now, the price of the Onefinity CNC machine, I'm not going to tell you the exact dollar I paid for it or what the current market is, just because we all know that the market is going to go up in price as time goes on. So let's just talk about, is it competitive in price? And the answer is yes. When you compare it to a Shapeoko or other machines in its class, as far as a hobby machine goes, it is very competitive. They're all within a few $100s. They all have different software and hardware that comes with them. So don't fret about price. You're gonna have to pay a few $1,000s for one for sure. Just be prepared for that. All right, so the next thing we're gonna talk about is gonna be the size of this thing. The footprint of it is 4 foot by 4 foot roughly. That's what it's gonna take up, unless you get the upgraded Z-rail on there, which we'll talk about later. Stay tuned for that. But 4 foot by 4 foot, and then the cutting area is about 31 by 31 inches. And that's a great size for a hobby machine. It fits in most small shops. But if you have a really small shop, they make a foldable table that mounts to the wall. You can literally mount this to the wall and still cut with it. You can also get a foldable table with wheels. So you can literally fold it up and set it up flat against the wall. So when you're not using it, it's out of the way. You know, like if you have a garage shop like mine and your wife wants to park in here, but she can't because, well, you have a big CNC machine in the way and she can't get the car in here. Love you, dear. Wink. Back on topic, it is a nice size for a small shop. Okay, so now I just want to talk about the 8 reasons or the 8 features that drew me towards buying the Onefinity versus any of the other hobby style models. The number one reason that I decided to buy the Onefinity is because there are no drive belts. There are no belts in this thing at all. And I live in Minnesota where it can get really, really cold and the next day can be really warm. And the last thing I wanted to do was worry about tensioning belts all the time. I was not gonna deal with that. So if I couldn't get a CNC machine that didn't have belts, I wasn't gonna get one. The number one reason I bought this. The number 2 feature for this machine is the heavy metal rails. These heavy metal rails have 0 flex to them, which is important when you're making a cut, because as you're moving along the Z-axis, the last thing you want is flex in those rails. It's gonna ruin your design. The more pressure you have pushing down, sometimes those rails wanna flex. If they're aluminum or thin metal, they do not flex. These heavy metal rails are so stable that I could stand on them. It would not flex. And I'm not a small dude. I mean, I'm 6'5", 250 pounds. This thing is not gonna flex. The third feature for the Onefinity CNC machine that is definitely a pro is the easy daily maintenance. Every CNC machine that you get is gonna have some kind of maintenance that you need to do with it. And you wanna do it daily. After every use, you wanna wipe everything down and spray it off with the air compressor. Well, when everything is metal, it is so much easier. You don't have pulleys to mess around with or the belt to try and wipe off. You just wipe off the metal, you spray off all the extra sawdust, and presto, you're done. And depending on how often you use your machine, you're gonna need to do some deep dive maintenance, get some of that compacted sawdust out, because this does ride on bearings and you don't want sawdust to compact in those bearings. It will be a problem. Number 4 has got to be durability. This machine, because it is all this heavy metal, there's no cheap plastic in the body of this thing. There's no thin aluminum parts on this thing. It is extremely durable. And that's important in a small shop because you're gonna be swinging boards around, you're gonna end up bumping it, you're gonna carry tools around, this is gonna become a table that ends up as a catch-all and it's gonna get bumped. It needs to be durable, and this is durable. Number 5, this machine only took me 30 minutes to put together. It may have even been less than that. I'd say it's taken me longer to make BLT sandwiches before than that 30 minutes it took me to put this together. Within that time frame, I was already flattening my spoil board. Some of the competitors, if you go on their websites and look at the forums, it's taken some people 10 plus hours to put one of these together. 30 minutes. That's insane. That should be number one, actually. I should bump that all the way up to number one reason to buy it. I don't want to put something together for 10 hours. I don't have that kind of time. I got money to make. 30 minutes. That's it. Number 6, it's got to be the software. You can run this machine with your laptop. You could run it with your phone. You could run it with a tablet. You can use a thumb drive with your project on it and this touch screen here. And the software is continuously updated. It has bug fixes for it, and they give you upgrades for free. They don't charge you to upgrade the software. I mean, maybe they will someday, but they haven't yet. And you can do it wirelessly. If you have wireless internet connection, you can do it right to the machine wirelessly, or you can download it and use your thumb drive to update the software. It's so simple. They've done everything they can to make this machine easy to run the software. Just brilliant. By the way, you are not required to have an internet connection to run this machine. It's just nice if you do. It makes things a little easier, but it is not required by any means. You can run it without just fine. Number 7 has got to be the Onefinity community. The Onefinity Facebook page, the Onefinity forums, and the Onefinity YouTube channel have got to be the best location to get information on this machine. I think it's the best community I found. I checked them out before I bought machines. They had a forum going for this machine before it was even released. You can go on those forums if you have a question. They get answered. The YouTube videos are amazing. Not to mention people like me making videos for you so you can learn about the machine. The community around this machine is second to none. Great company, haven't had any issues with them. Number 8 is the fact that they have the best accessories and add-ons for the Onefinity. All right, so the first one is this controller right here. This controller is used to move the router around to get precise locations. It's a lot easier than trying to use your phone and the little buttons on there, or even the buttons on the tablet. This is way more precise. As far as I'm concerned, this is a must-have add-on for your Onefinity. The next piece of add-on hardware has got to be the touch probe. You can use this machine without the touch probe, but if you want to be precise and you want to be consistent with your bits after bit changes, you have to get a touch probe. To me, this is a must-have on any CNC machine. It just makes life easier, makes your projects look nicer most of the time. So, like I said, you can do it without this, but I would definitely add this on. It is a great add-on. The next piece of hardware is the laser. I don't have the laser yet. I haven't had any interest in getting one. But if you have a laser, leave messages in the comments telling us if you have it and if you like it or if you don't like it. I'm not going to say anything about it. I just know some people love it on the forums. I think it's a great add-on if you are interested in getting a laser. The next thing has to be the X50Z rail. It's a 50-inch rail that goes across the top instead of this shorter one. Gives you a little more cutting area. I do have one coming. I'll do a video about how to install it and maybe one later on my thoughts on using it. I'm sure it'll be great because it's just going to give me more surface area to cut. And the last thing about the add-ons are the aftermarket add-ons. Remember I talked about this community being awesome? Well, I dare you to go to Etsy and type in Onefinity. You'll see all these crazy add-ons. One of them has to be the drag chains. I ended up getting the drag chains, bought them off Etsy. Oh, what a great buy. Another thing is the dust boot. I ended up ordering a new dust boot because this dust boot, well, we'll get into this dust boot. I needed a better dust boot. The other thing is you can get larger touchscreens. And I'll get into the smaller one when we talk about the things that suck about the Onefinity. But this is a great add-on. It's a feature that this machine allows you to do. I mean, I could hook up my TV to it if I wanted to, but this works great. There's so many things that you can add on to this machine. Aftermarket is great for this. Community is awesome. And before we move on to the 5 things that suck about the Onefinity, be sure to like this video so others can get this information and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Appreciate it. let's talk about the 5 things that suck about the Onefinity. Number 1 has to be cord management. Or should we say the lack of it? There is no cord management with this at all. Your cords just kind of flop out all over. That's why I got the drag chains as an aftermarket product. So yeah, no cord management, 0. I actually caught one of the cords with a dowel before I had the drag chains, and it broke the connector, so I had to wait for a new cord to come in the mail. I had to order a new cord, and yeah, it needed cord management. There is no cord management. The number 2 sucky thing about the Onefinity CNC machine has got to be the 7-inch monitor. This thing is garbage. Holy cow, it wouldn't turn on half the time, let alone the fact that the screen was so small, and the buttons on the program were so small, I couldn't hit them with my fat fingers, you know, because woodworkers and tradesmen usually have bigger hands, bigger fingers. This thing, complete garbage. And half the time it wouldn't even turn on, and if it did turn on, it would shut off partway when using it. This thing, garbage. The 3rd sucky thing about the Onefinity machine has to be the cord connectors. These are cheap, thin plastic, easy to break, and in my cold shop, because again, I live in Minnesota where it gets cold, and extreme cold and thin plastic just don't mesh. I mean, they break. Sometimes the connectors would slide apart, wouldn't have a full connection because it would be a little cooler in here. You always have to check the connections. So what I'm going to say is, Onefinity, if you're watching, I would be happy to pay a few extra dollars for my machine to get better connectors. Obviously, I'm going to speak for everyone here. We would all pay a little more for better connectors. The 4th most sucky thing about the Onefinity machine has got to be, no pun intended, the sucky dust boot. Well, for me, the number 1 problem has got to be that it has a port for a shop vac. And my shop has a dust collection system which uses a 4-inch hose. So when you take a 4-inch hose, drop it down to the 2 1/4, it just does not work very well. And I lose some suction. I need to have a 4-inch. So thankfully I've ordered a 4-inch model from an aftermarket person, and I will definitely do a review on that and show you that when it comes. But this thing has been terrible. And you see this blue tape on here? You know why that blue painter's tape is on there? It's actually holding this thing together. I mean, I could peel it apart. Because my dust boot was running with the machine, it bumped into one of the hold downs for my project, came unsnapped, and the bit just ran all over through this thing. It was chunking it up as it was moving before I caught it. It really did a number on this guy. So this dust boot, nope. Not a good one. And number 5, the last sucky thing about the Onefinity machine, has to be the router. They only have one option for a router that you can use. It's the Makita RT0701C. That's the only router you can use with this, and this thing comes with its own set of issues. I have to use blue tape on this thing too. But I will give credit to Onefinity. They do have a spindle for an option. You just have to get the added, it's an 80mm holder that goes on the Z-axis there. That you can use with a spindle. I don't have a spindle, I won't talk to it, but if you do have a spindle, or you are using a spindle, please put in the comments below, let people know if you enjoy the spindle, why you bought the spindle, and if you'd buy it again. But for now, I'll just deal with this. It isn't a horrible thing, I just wish I had a different option for a better quality router. So it all comes down to this. Do I recommend the Onefinity CNC machine? Well, of course I do. I own it, I love it, it's added revenue to my business, it's done a great job for my business. I have a small business, so keep that in mind. If you have a small business or you're using this as a hobby, I mean, if I was a hobbyist, man, this might be the greatest toy ever. As a small business owner, it's great. If I were a big business, a large business doing production work, or if I were a big cabinet shop that needed to cut out big cabinet pieces, this would not do the job. It would be underpowered, it would be too small, and it just wouldn't get the job done. It wouldn't be worth the money to invest in something this small for a cabinet shop or a large production shop. You can definitely do small production with this, not a problem, but if you're doing big production work, this thing will burn out. The router isn't meant for that. Maybe if you had the spindle, it'd be better, but this machine just isn't built for that. You need the big 4x8 machines. So, Again, I would recommend this. I would say go get this for your small business, for your small shop, but not for big production. So if you're interested in the Onefinity machine, I'll leave a link in the description below to the website so you can go check them out. Otherwise, here's another video for you to watch, and like, subscribe, go be great.